Hello everyone, this is a comparison between the 2012 MacBook Air 11-inch and the 2012 MacBook Air 13-inch. First I want to talk about the size and the weight of the two because that is the main difference. So the 11-inch is 2.38 pounds and the 13-inch is 2.96 pounds. So there's about 24% difference in weight here. So this is 3 pounds and this is 2.4 pounds. And as a weight comparison, if you compare it to the iPad, the 11-inch is about 1 pound heavier. In terms of size, the 11-inch is 11.8 by 7.6 inches. So basically the size of a standard piece of paper. The 13-inch is 12.8 times 8 by 9, 8.9 inches. So it's going to be about 27% bigger in area. So it sounds like it's not too much, but it's actually quite a lot. When you hold the laptops, this one does feel like a full-size laptop, whereas the 11-inch feels like a notebook almost. Now in terms of thickness, they're actually identical. So they all start at 0.11 inches at the thin side, and then they'll go to 0.68 inches on the thicker side. So in terms of thickness, is this. So because of the size difference, the 13-inch has 1440 by 900 pixels, whereas the 11-inch has 1366 by 768 pixels. So there are fewer pixels on this one. One thing to note is this is 16 by 9 aspect ratio, and this one is I think 16 by 10. So when you do view 1080p or 720p videos, such as from YouTube, or like this video, then this will fill the entire screen, whereas this one will have black bars. And this is a typical website. You can see there is difference in the area of content you can see. So basically there's a part that's chopped off that you can still see on the 13-inch. However, if you make this full screen view, then you get about the same kind of view. So basically the amount of content you can get on the 13 is when you switch to full screen view. Of course, when you make the 13-inch full screen, then you see a little more again. So while we are here, I want to mention that the two keyboards actually have the same width, and the main typing areas are identical, but the last row and the top row, the heights are different. So here, these keys, you can see that the one on the 11-inch is shorter. Also, these keys are half size compared to these keys for the top row. I don't use the top row that often, so to me it doesn't quite matter. And also the touchpad is a little smaller, so let me try to show you this. So here you can see the difference in the touchpad. This one is narrower. One thing I want to mention is that the 11-inch actually you can carry in your backpack when you travel within the US. So this is TSA allowed to not be taken out of the backpack, whereas the 13-inch counts as a full-size laptop and you do have to take it out. So in terms of convenience, if you're a frequent traveler, the 11-inch has that benefit. So let's look around the exterior for a bit. So the top, there's really nothing to say there. On the back, there's basically the hinge, not much to mention here as well. So on the left side, for the 13-inch, you have the MagSafe 2 port, the USB 3.0 headphone port. Also, you can use the microphone on the iPhone cable. And here's a microphone. On the right, the 13-inch has an SD card slot, another USB 3 port, and a Thunderbolt port. On the 11-inch, on the left side, basically you have the same thing. So you have the MagSafe, the USB 3, and the headphone mic. On the right, however, you notice there's no SD card slot. And this is because this one is going down in thickness so quickly that there's no space for it. So instead of that, you just have USB 3.0 and a Thunderbolt. Also, because the 11-inch is smaller, it has less of a volume for battery. So it has 5 hours of battery, whereas the 13-inch has 7 hours of battery life. In terms of specs, the two are actually pretty much identical. So there's a bit of a difference. Both in this configuration are Core i5 3rd generation Intel processors. The 11-inch is 1.7 gigahertz, whereas the 13-inch is 1.8 gigahertz. So there's about 6% speed difference there. If you want to know the model number, this one is 3317U, this one is 3427U. So these are the CPU designations from Intel. They both have 4 gigabytes of DDR3 1600 megahertz RAM and 12 or 128 gigabytes of SSD. So whatever is inside is actually very similar, besides the battery, of course. So these are very similar performing machines. So here I'm showing the results of Geekbench on the 13-inch on the left and the 11-inch on the right. So 13-inch gets 6158, the 11-inch gets 5738. So the 13-inch is about 7% faster, which makes sense because its processor is about 6% faster. So in terms of the cache size, though, for the two CPUs, they're identical. So now if you go down in the other performance or the details for the test bench, you can see that mostly the 13-inch is better than the 11-inch in, I think, all areas by about 7% or so. So it's pretty consistent across for stream performance, memory, floating point, and integer performance. So pretty consistent. So the next thing is price. The 13-inch in this configuration is $11.99, whereas the 11-inch is $10.99. So there's about $100 of difference there, which kind of makes sense because here you get a larger screen, more battery. Also, you have about 7% faster performance. So in terms of price per performance ratio, you get about the same. However, which one to choose really comes down to the form factor. So the 11-inch is really very small. So if you haven't seen one in person, you should try it out, and then you'll see it's really just like a notebook, and it weighs very little. So you can carry this basically anywhere. On the airplane, on the tray table, don't have to take it off your backpack, carry it to classroom. You can almost use it like an iPad because it's about the same size. Whereas for the 13-inch, this is really now a computer, so you wouldn't take this where you wouldn't take a computer. It's big enough, it's a little bit heavy, it's not too heavy, but it's big enough that you wouldn't carry around all the time. Whereas this one, you can almost fit it within a sleeve or a little bag of some sort. This one you kind of need a laptop bag or a messenger bag, for example. So it really comes down to how you're going to use the laptop. If you're a frequent traveler or a student who has to take the laptop a lot to class and you have an external monitor somewhere, I will say 11-inch is the way to go. If you want to use this as your main computer, sometimes you have to stare at it for hours at a time without using an external monitor, then the 13-inch will be the one for you. Alright, so hopefully this video has been helpful. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.